Yeah.
This means we have to have a fight.
Begin. This meeting actually started at 6 o'clock when the Board of Education was called to order, and then we adjourned to go into executive session for board self-assessment. So we have already approved the agenda, and we're ready to move on. Tonight is our last board meeting of the school year, and personally it's my favorite because we get to celebrate student achievement and all the accomplishments of the past year. And you can see we have a lot of guests tonight, and a lot of you students I recognize from MD TV and Cider Mill TV, so welcome, thank you for coming. So I know it's a school night, so we'll get you on your way as soon as we can. So I think Superintendent Smith has some
Great.
awards he'd like to give out.
Thank you. Well, first of all, welcome. So this is unusual. We don't typically have our Board of Education gather here in the Zellner Gallery. Tonight we are, and this is our best effort at trying to recreate a red carpet moment for our students. So 4 years ago, when I started, I had a really fantastic conversation with the folks at the Wilson Education Foundation, who are just a group of parents and former parents, and tremendously supportive of our schools. And in the conversation, I said, what would you like to see them do? And as I kind of toured around the schools, I said, I think we have a real opportunity to grow our video production capacity. I would love to see TV studios in our lower schools and try to do some work here at the high school. And a group of high school, I think they were seniors at the time, maybe a junior, heard that, and they came to see me and they said, we're going to do it for you. And so they did, and they did all the research, took Web's donation, did incredible analysis, and really enabled the district to purchase state-of-the-art equipment. And then we tapped some hotshot teachers in our district to facilitate the work, and then we got the support of our PTAs, and it's just grown. And this year, across 3 of our schools, we earned 10 awards in TV production. And so I thought it really important that we celebrate that and that we honor that. And so we're going to do a couple of things tonight, but here's what I would say to our students that I really want you to have a red carpet moment. Okay? So we're going to hand out some awards, and the awards are behind me at the table over here, but we're going to have you come up through the red carpet. I'm going to ask our teachers to come forward and help present, and then we'll read your names. And then we have a photographer here, and we're going to have you, once you collect your award, we set up a screen in the back. We're going to have a professional photograph of you taken, all right? And then you'll get a card, and we'll send you the photo. Is that how it's going to work?
They can pick them up or I can send them.
You can pick them up, we'll send them to you, but we're going to have you leave with a photograph tonight. Make sense? All right, great. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to start with Middlebrook. So is Miss Latif with us tonight? She didn't make it. That's okay. So I'm not even going to use the microphone. So let me just tell you a little about what the awards are, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so these are the Area 9 Cable Council and Altice of Connecticut Awards. So the Educational Access Awareness Awards honor original student video productions that have been broadcast throughout the school year on Altice's Educational Access Channel 78. The Area 9 Cable Council and Altice sponsor this contest yearly to encourage students to develop video production and storytelling skills by creating access television shows relevant to the school and the community. Student videos are recognized in 7 separate categories: animation stop motion, creative open entries, community school stories, documentaries, narrative open entries, news shows, and public service announcements. So, and then they also give out a significant award, which is the award we're going to start with, and that's the John Rapicki Award. John Rapicki was actually a teacher here in Wilton for many years. He was hoping to come tonight and actually present the award himself, but wasn't able to, but wanted everyone to know he sends his very best and is very, very proud of our students. So the Rapicki Award honors the best overall project in each level, and then you get $500 and equipment to make your next year's programs even better. All right, so let's begin there. So in our middle school, we have a young man who's earned several awards. We're going to have him come up first. Harrison Forland, where are you? Great, so Harrison, come on up.
Need to walk the red carpet.
So Harrison produced a piece called Say No to Peer Pressure. And so for that effort, he won first place in the animation stop motion category. Harrison also won the John M. Rapicki Award, right, for that same piece. And then he won a third award in the category of community and school story for his piece on zero waste. So are you coming to the high school next year? We need to give you a few more arms here. All right, so now, is Joe here with us tonight, Joe Eustace? All right, so Joe wasn't able to be here. So Harrison and Joe together also put together a piece entitled Teaching Tolerance, and for that they won second place in the Creative Open Entry category. So congratulations to you. And We're seeing big things in Harrison. Great. So Harrison's going to come and have his picture taken. Great. Also, at the middle school, where is Carolyn Palma, Nora Corrigan, and Jolene Masad? Come on out.
Walk the red carpet, red carpet.
So these young ladies, put together a piece entitled Don't Be Tricked into Peer Pressure. And for their effort, they won third place in the public service category. So we have a certificate and a small board.
I know, so pretty.
All right, so on to Cider Mill. Mr. Greasley here by any chance? No, but I see Mr. Puglia and I see Mr. Quantock. So come on up here. You can join us. And Skip. Mr. Ploss is also here. So Skip Ploss, who works primarily at Miller Driscoll, has done double duty this year supporting our folks at Cider Mill. So let's short time, right? So let's give our instructors first a round of applause. So, Isabella Hassan and Aditi Galore, are you here?
Red carpet,
Aditi, come on, I gotta go to the red carpet.
red carpet.
We're gonna be here till 10 o'clock.
I mean, you guys.
So Aditi and Isabella put a piece together called the Pegboard Challenge, and they took third place in the Creative Open Entries category. So Aditi, congratulations. All right, so we have Jamila Santos, Reed O'Neill, and Thomas Prandi Turk. Are you here? Come on up. So these guys put together a piece called An Interview with Our Custodians, and for their effort, they took second place in the Community School Story category. So congratulations. So Charles Patella, Meredith Schwartz, and Alexis Leopold, are you Anya Cheliboya, Aditi Valor, Amol Valor, Piper Markowski, Quinn Mitchell, Grady Kaliski, Finley White, Lyle Nietzsche Pounded, and Francie Braun. If you're here, come on. So their piece was entitled Cider Mill's first ever TV show, which it was. Right? And these guys took third place in the news show category. So congratulations. The other fabulous aspect of this work is we have an army of students participating across the district, and we're thrilled with the number of participants at Cider Mill. So round of applause. All right, and so Skip is here. Mr. Rennis, you're here as well, so come on up.
You can, if you wish, go ahead.
So,
Yeah,
What do you
he's
wear?
coming in his red
Who you
shirt.
wear? Oh, Nautica. Okay, Nautica and Gap, okay.
I don't want to take up valuable board time.
they have been video production machines this year, right? Every day we start the day with newscasts, and the students are all over the place tomorrow. And as Steve and Brian will probably tell the audience, the students that just want to do it all. It is student-led 100% of the way. All right, so Shia Bareilly, Ben Calvino, Catherine Duke, Rita Curry, Sean Liu, Emily Ma, Grace Merkel, Willow Rondo, Shia Bareilly. Is that Miss Shia?
No, you said it. I was telling them in the
Oh,
back.
thanks.
He's waiting.
Shushu Balaji, Nora McGrath, Harrison Pham, Sophia Salim, Troy Santoski, Ryan Toby, Rhea Vadira, Jasmine Bologna, Caleb Eskenazi, Emily Saller, and Sloan Sobiga.
These are brothers.
So these students submitted the Miller Driscoll Morning Show for Monday, April 30th, and they took first place in the news show category.
Wait, to get this front.
So cute with all the cameras. Oh my gosh.
They wanted to get a picture of all of us.
Great. All right, and we want to get a photo right here. So everybody turn around and give a big smile to the crowd so we can.
Guys, find your window. Let me give you a shout out. Find your window.
Andrea's like, I'm getting out of this. No photo bombing.
Sophia.
Exactly. Look at all these young parents. How cute is this with all their cameras? Oh my God, it takes me back. It's been a few years for me. Oh, my baby? It's like, Mom, you better take a picture. It was my middle child who would be like, but my daughter's the theater kid, so she's all about the spotlight.
Here's the video.
She pretends to be shy about it now, but it's all
Is that
about
on your news game?
She loves it.
That's it. Now we go. Oh. So, I think so. We're getting there.
What's your name? One of these goes to school then?
Is that everybody who's standing here? No, we need Troy. And Rhea K. so many things to hold on to. Right there. Right.
So we're missing Sloan
So
and
guys, this is the paparazzi. So this is what it looks like to be famous. So turn and face them. Find your window. Find your window.
Find your
Smile.
window. That's a technical term, I guess, right? Find your window. Listen to all the flashing here.
Okay.
That's so
All right,
cute.
guys. Go get your picture taken. Oh wait, one more. All right, go. Go make a line of pictures. All right, guys. Get him up.
It's got to be Oscar working the report. Special ed. Period. Our kids are better together. Period. So we are moving forward. And we have
That was the most exciting part of the Board of Education meeting. No offense to my colleagues. Do not feel you have any obligation to stay any further than right now. We did put out a few cupcakes if you would like a cupcake while the students are getting their pictures taken, but do not feel obligated to remain.
thank you.
No, I know that. Oh, no, you were doing it.
Next on the agenda is
insane.
presentation of yearbooks.
Oh, you're going to do district-wide, though? We used to just do the high school uncertified. All right, that's already out.
Yearbooks is next.
Big sales, birthday parties.
Is that being presented at the
Just football
podium?
games, concession stands, anything.
No, then we
Anything
should
school
probably-
related.
Do you want to take a 5-minute recess?
Maybe that would be a good thing.
If they don't approve it, yeah. Even if
Yeah, we're going to take a couple minutes to just let our friends get their snacks. So just,
We could get control of the room again.
send me the cupcakes if they're not eaten. I didn't have.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Start with Cider Mill.
Yeah.
Them all still taking pictures. Two.
They moved out far.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I was just thinking that too. It's a hard time of day to get here.
Yeah.
And coming up from Real O'Driscoll this time of day, that intersection that you're talking about putting a roundabout in, I live right down the street from that. It can get really crazy in rush hour.
I've been stuck there in the morning.
Yeah, mornings and rush hour. Everything else for train is smooth sailing.
Yes, see, sadly, if I do park in South Carolina, by the time I
Do you have to change trains normal?
no, I don't. I purposely, there's good trains instruction actually, morning and evening, that I don't know which trains. So, like today,
Right. So, just two other quick announcements on the front of our TV Awards presentation. We'd be remiss if we didn't give a special thank you to high school alumna Kendall Lamantia, who is in the back volunteering to take photographs of all our kids. So, Kendall, thank you very much. And I also want to recognize our Director of Digital Learning, Fran Compar, who represents the Wilton Public Schools on the Area 9 Cable Council. Fran has written, 3 or 4 grants to the Cable Council this year, which generated revenue of, I want to say, over $12,000 that we've dedicated to purchasing and upgrading equipment. So, Fran, a very special thank you for that effort.
Thank you. And now another fun year-end thing we get to do, presentation of the yearbooks. Is there anyone here from Cider Mill?
Starting with Cider Mill.
Cider Mill?
The yearbooks, no.
No.
Or Middlebrook, I'm not sure.
Okay. Middlebrook?
Looks like just the high school. Oh, hold on.
No? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Advisor was not able to be here tonight, Bill Matthews, and he asked me
You've got
to,
the microphone right there.
yeah, to deliver this on his behalf. So, Middlebrook's Yearbook Photography and Design Club had another successful year. They were able to include many different school learning, community, and cultural events. Due to snow days, they were able to include events that typically have been held past their deadline, such as World Language Week. And the publishing company that they've worked with for many years was very accommodating and flexible in allowing them to adjust their deadlines. Besides capturing photos during the school day, students who participated in this after-school meeting spent time learning about and working with real-world digital editing and design tools, such as online layout application from our publishing company, digital photo editing tools such as Pixlr, and our new school-wide video editing platform called BOE Video. So I have some copies to deliver.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Looks gorgeous, thanks.
Oh, these are
Thank you.
beautiful. Thank you very much. Oh, very nice. Yearbooks from Wilton High School.
Hi, my name is Chloe. I'm one of 4 of the senior editors for the yearbook. So we're here just to present it. This year for our theme, we chose Journey. This was a really important theme for all the senior editors because we've all been together since kindergarten, 1st grade. We've all been on this journey together, and now we're starting a new one. So it's just really important to have a specific theme for our grade.
And before Madison talks, I'd just like to introduce the rest of the editors and myself. I'm Sue Brandt, and I was the yearbook, in charge of the yearbook this year. These are some of our editors. It's Chloe Hornby, Madison Tomas, Max Schwartz, Lindsay Gildersleeve, and Caitlin Moody. And so they're each going to share their favorite page from the book. Madison?
Yes, so one of the pages I really enjoyed was the Bring Your Own Device page, and as many of you know, the Bring Your Own Device program was put into place in the high school this year, and it's been a very important part of our learning community, because as you can see if you go through the high school, each day everyone's using their devices and their computers to further their learning, and that's why we decided to put a page for it in the yearbook.
Awesome.
Excellent.
I think another really important is the charity organizations page, which is unique to this yearbook. And I think it really emphasizes how a lot of the students are helping the members of our community as a whole and people of Connecticut as a whole. And I think it's important to showcase that Wilton High School is more than just an academic environment and more than just an athletic environment. It's full of students and people that just want to help the community. That's my favorite page.
Awesome.
Hi, my favorite page that we did in the yearbook this year was the trip to Germany page, and I thought that even though I did not go on this trip, this was the first year that the German students were able to take a trip abroad, and they went to Germany, and I just thought this was really a great opportunity to showcase the highlights of the trip, and I got to interview the teachers and the students, and I think it was really great because the students got to travel the world, and it's an experience I'll remember forever.
My favorite page was the art exhibits page because this was the AP art show, and I was a part of that class, and I feel like the pictures and the descriptions really represent the show that we had, and it was a really fun experience, and I think this year especially the school has improved on showcasing the art program and all the different students that were a part of it, so it was really interesting.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank Thank you so much.
Lucy was our editor-in-chief for the yearbook.
Awesome.
You were.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
This is beautiful.
Thank
This
you.
is truly a highlight of each year, and it's clear how, wow, this is a big book. Bigger than past years, I think. But thank you, and I'm sure all of your friends and colleagues are really enjoying going through it. Did they get distributed today?
On the 11th.
On the 11th, okay. Great. Well, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, that's a cool picture.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people to recognize, and so many people contribute so meaningfully to the success of our schools and the positive experiences that our students have. We want to just take a moment to acknowledge and thank our PTA presidents because they're fabulous. They're volunteers. They put in countless hours, and they wind up managing typically a great deal. And so words are certainly inadequate, and flowers are a small token, but let me say a special thank you to Tammy, who is our PTA president. So I see Anne-Marie Aronowitz is here from Cider Mill. Right? And Hillary Morrissey is here representing Millbrook. I didn't see Sabit. Oh, Sabit is here. So then Sabit Constantine is our veteran PTA president.
Thank you all. I know how much work you do. And just there's a couple past PTA presidents up here. So
Indeed.
just don't answer your phone when it rings, right?
So this is your next, yeah, this is your next job.
Yeah, so clearly that's a great end of year celebration. So thank you to everyone for a great year of accomplishment. Lots to be proud of. At this point, we'd like to move to comments from the public. If there's anybody who would like to come forward and share with the board any thoughts, comments. If you could just state your name.
Allison Sherman,
Okay.
and just, I have a 10th grader and a 7th grader, and some of you know me. Last night, at open house for 7th grade, there was a display of butterflies, which tied in with the teaching of Holocaust education to our 7th graders that obviously we've done for well over 20 years. To that point, I'm thrilled that we live in a town that takes a serious interest in educating our kids in terms like genocide and Holocaust, and explaining to them that there is no place for hate in this town, in this community. That said, as good as a lesson is, a picture speaks 1,000 words. And when that 10% of the Jewish population in this town walks through the halls of our public school and sees 100 or so butterflies, and a handful of them have a swastika on them, we are not going to see anything else. And every lesson that you have taught our children gets lost because we have just been kicked in the gut. And so my comment here is, if you are going to teach our kids and then desensitize them in the same lesson, you have taught them nothing. I've never been to a Board of Ed meeting. I am not sure what the forum is or what is appropriate. And so now I'm sitting here looking at all of you, and I know that I have a Jewish community of Wilton sitting behind me. And if I've started the ball rolling and some of you have a comment, and Rabbi Berman, thank you for being here. So I'm going to excuse myself because I'm not.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to come forward and share thoughts?
Me again. So,
Could you give your name?
my name is Susan Rappaport. I have children at Middlebrook and the high school. And I have addressed most of you before about similar issues. And Dr. Smith, you and I have met multiple times. What I want to say is, I truly believe you have the best of intentions. However, this district has an implementation problem. Over and over and over again. I'll just talk about this one, but there are other ones. I just cannot understand. What I want to say is I really truly believe that the board needs to have more oversight because the administration thus far has been unable to implement the things they have laid out that they were going to do. So, the first thing the administration was going to do was to have a training of the staff, which they did, and that box got checked off. And then I asked for a copy of the training, and I was appalled, which Kevin, you and I have talked about, and you were in agreement that it was appallingly deficient, if not offensive. And yet, I don't believe, as far as I'm aware, and I'm on the school climate committee, that any other training has since been scheduled. Nothing has filled that void. Clearly, that's a problem based on what we have now seen. Because no matter the good intentions of these teachers on this color with their project, they are terribly misguided because they do not have the training to teach this subject matter. And the fact that the training went awry and nothing ever filled that void, here we have the result. And it is offensive and appalling and unacceptable. Again. So 3 or 4 incidents ago, Kevin, you apologized to me for not handling it well enough. And you said to me personally, we're going to do it better. I know we didn't handle it right. And here I am, multiple incidents later. So I truly believe, I know you have best intentions, I know that, but there needs to be someone else, another body involved, advising you that you are answering to about this specific subject matter. And I really believe the board needs to be involved with this. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
So I'm Rabbi Rachel Bierman from the temple in Georgetown. And I just wanted to say that I echo the thought that and the knowledge that the administration has the very best intentions. And I appreciated the phone calls that I received after I raised concerns from Kevin and Lauren today and reaching out from both of them, and I appreciated that. For me, this latest trouble, we'll say, is different than the previous incidents because it is a class activity rather than one student acting out or some kind of behavioral issue, which is its own kind of subject to address. But the lack of judgment or perspective from a teacher who wanted to, I truly believe, wanted to teach something about the Holocaust with integrity, but lost the ability to see why memorializing victims of the Holocaust with the symbol of the Holocaust was not appropriate. But that lack of judgment from a teacher is different than a child's misbehavior, a student's misbehavior. And whether or not we build into the system some kind of safety network where if one person loses perspective, as all of us could at any time in our lives, I guess, but the fact that there was no oversight or safety measure to keep one person's lack of perspective from spilling over into an entire group and now an entire community's experience is really troubling. And the idea that we are finishing a year that we spent so much time in the fall talking about this symbol, with a classroom decorated with this symbol, shows me that we have so much work to do. And whether or not this symbol, the project was meant to be some kind of claiming of this Nazi swastika, I don't think that's what was meant to happen. But the lack of foresight or the lack of ability to see that these butterflies, which I understand are from a kind of homage to the Butterfly Project, not necessarily the Butterfly Project, each butterfly is supposed to represent a child that was killed during the Holocaust. And for each memorial butterfly to be covered in the symbols of their murderers, I mean, that should have been an easy thing to understand, that wouldn't be acceptable. But even if it's not, where was the safety net? Where was the protection that keeps one person's lack of perspective from really hurting a group of students and a larger community? And I just want to say also, the Nazi swastika is not only an anti-Jewish thing. This is not something that just hurts the Jewish community. This symbol is one of genocide for a number of groups of people who the Nazis tried to wipe off the face of the earth. So it's something that the Jewish community, I'm sure, is going to be vocal about tonight, but it is not just our community who was hurt by it. And I'm hopeful, and really, truly hopeful, and continuing to offer partnership to Kevin and to Lauren and to be a help in any way I can. But we need more. This is a year that started with swastikas and is ending with swastikas. And that's just painful in every way that I can explain. So thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Jennifer Lipsky. When this came to my attention last night, I shared it with my daughter, who's in 8th grade. And her reaction was, she literally took my phone and threw it across the room because she couldn't believe that this was happening again. And she had a conversation with her friends in school about it today. And her friend's reaction was, well, it was supposed to be to teach us about the Holocaust, and it's not really a big deal, and you're making too big of a deal about it. And that was sort of the reaction of many of her friends, that she was making too much of a big deal about it, about how she felt about a symbol of hate. So this seems to be our community's feeling and reaction to these symbols of hate. And how can my daughter feel comfortable coming to school when she's surrounded by, not all, but a community who does not foster understanding, knowledge about the history and the symbolism? So she's frustrated, I'm frustrated. Unfortunately, my family was also affected by this years ago, when my son was directly involved in the incident at the high school with the swastika, as was Susan's family. Unfortunately, we've been down this road before. And just when I feel as if we're making some progress, here we are again. And my issue is, if there was just one teacher who was involved in this, which I cannot believe that it was just one teacher that was involved in this project. I have to believe that the other teachers who were part of the team were also aware of this, that someone didn't say, hey, this doesn't feel right. I understand what I've done my research, I understand what the Butterfly Project is about. It's supposed to be fostering love, joy, understanding. They're supposed to be symbols of hope. That's what the butterflies are supposed to be. And clearly, it went wrong. And when you see a butterfly that has a swastika on it, how do you not say, no, we've gone wrong here? Whoever did, Joey, I'm sorry, I understand what your story is, but these are supposed to be about joy. These are supposed to be about hope. They're not supposed to be about symbols of hate. Somebody should have stopped it before it was completed and put on the wall. Somebody should have stopped it. A teacher, an administrator. Somebody should have seen it and said, no. The parents and the children should not have had to see this displayed last night. We have to do something. We have to educate the teachers, so the teachers can educate the students in an informed and knowledgeable way. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Wendy Nadell, and I stood in front of you a few months ago at an evening session of the Board of Ed meeting regarding the Middlebrook swastika incident earlier in the year. At that time, I said to you, who are we to say that we just hired a math teacher or a science teacher, phys ed, whatever teacher, and that person is qualified somehow to talk to our children about sensitive subjects, because we do not have any idea what these people really believe in, what they support, so obviously there's a disconnect, because with what happened in Middlebrook this year, there's a disconnect because this teacher did not get it in any way, shape, or form, and truthfully should not be allowed back in the school system. Okay? I think that is a complete crucifixion. I mean, it's just unbelievable that this teacher even thought that it was okay when the whole swastika sister happened, that she thought it could go on butterflies. Okay? I do not believe that a teacher in our school system that is hired should be teaching any of our children, and I have children in high school, okay? I came to you back a few months ago and I told you that when you asked teachers in the high school to discuss this swastika situation, my daughter was crucified in class for what she stood up for, okay? Come to believe, that teacher is actually Jewish, okay? Clearly misguided, but clearly said things that offended the entire classroom in English. The entire classroom, okay? Very offensive, okay? We cannot have teachers teaching this sort of information to our children because they are not trained. They do not understand, nor do we know what they truly believe in. Maybe they believe that the Holocaust never happened. Maybe they believe in other things that are figments. I don't even know what to say, because I just read that information last night and my skin nearly crawled off my body, because I was like, not again. And you know what? I'm gonna go backwards in my life and tell you, I was adopted. My husband was adopted. Neither of us were Jewish by birth, okay? We were adopted into Jewish families, and we were taught the faith, we were taught what we know, we were led to believe in whatever. We have never faltered from what we believe. Was it in our blood? Absolutely not. And I even did my ancestry DNA, and I found out that no, I do not have an ounce of Jewish in me. But I am Jewish. I will always be Jewish, okay? And I believe in what I learned from my ancestry and my tradition, and I believe in what I learned about the Holocaust, and I do not believe that anybody in this school system should be teaching our children things that are incorrect. And I'm sorry, maybe some of you on this board don't believe. Maybe some of you were sitting right here saying, ha 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 ha, to yourselves. But you know what? I'm not. I'm not, because this is my heart, and this is my children, this is my family, and this is my life. Okay? And this really ticks me off that this would happen again after that whole situation a few months ago in Middlebrook School, that anybody could think a swastika would be okay on a frickin' butterfly. And I'm sorry if I upset you, but I am upset. And I don't have children in Middlebrook, but if this was happening when I was in Middlebrook, trust me, I'd be louder. Okay? So trust me, this is not okay, and I am not gonna sit back. Yes, I have a daughter. I have to leave now because I have to go to a PGP meeting because my daughter is graduating from Wilton High School on Saturday, and I have another daughter who's gonna be there for 2 more years. Okay? If I have to deal with this again, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. Okay? But this is just not good. It's not good.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Dana Arnowitz. I have a 7th grader. Sorry. I have a 7th grader at Middlebrook who is not in red where all of these pictures were presented. But when I did have the information last night, when I was looking on Facebook, I honestly couldn't breathe because the fact that there was walls that were lined with these butterflies and swastikas all over the wall is unbelievable to me. And like one of my friends said, the fact that it was this teacher that had the children draw these things, but where were the rest of the teachers? No one else saw what was going up on the walls? No one saw before open house, oh my God, look at all these swastikas all over the place. Why is it that someone is telling our kids, go ahead, it's okay. You can cover that whole side of the butterfly with swastikas if you want. In this day and age, we have spent so much time in this district trying to have everyone understand a swastika is not okay in any way, shape, or form. I want to know that it's okay to send my children to school and know that they're not going to come home saying, why are people doing things that are so stupid? This is just stupid. That the fact that my daughter, I say to her, do you hear what happened in 7 Red? She goes, yeah, I heard what happened. I said, what would you do if that was you? And she goes, I would be too scared to say anything. Because if I say something, how do I know what someone's gonna say back to me? I'm too scared. This is not okay. I had this back in the fall where she did not want to go to school because of the sticky note that was put on a friend of hers' locker. And now I have this. This is not okay. I'm sitting there crying at night, and my son is sitting there going, Mom, it's okay, stop crying. I can't stop crying. This is not okay. This has to change. I want to know how these children are going to learn that what went on there, that was not okay. No, kids, this is not okay for you to draw swastikas on your butterflies. It's a butterfly. Why would we draw a swastika on a butterfly? It's a beautiful symbol, and if you're going to learn what the butterfly project is, then do your research. What is she thinking? Or what is that group of teachers thinking? At least if you're going to do a project that you're supposed to pay money for before you even do the project, you're supposed to pay for this actual lesson to be able to teach it to the children. This woman didn't do any research, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, to figure out what you're supposed to put on the butterfly and what you're not. I want to know what my daughter is going to learn tomorrow about why this was not okay, and these children to know that they really did nothing wrong, because this is what they were told, it's okay, go ahead, you can draw a swastika. It's okay. This has to stop. It has to stop. We moved here for the reason of this beautiful community and these wonderful schools, and I can't have my kids come home and say, I'm afraid.
Thank you for your comments.
Chris, I'd like to make a comment. Can I make a comment? Sure. I'd like to make a comment as well, because not only am I a member of the Board of Education, I'm a parent. And I want to just address my fellow board members and the administration that's in this room. I urge you to listen to the voices of the parents tonight. Shame on you, shame on all of us to allow this to happen. Today, I was embarrassed to be a member of this Board of Ed, and I was ready to resign. It was only after speaking to my community today where they gave me hope and courage to carry on, because they said, no, you can't resign. We need your voice on the Board of Ed. So you need to understand, if this project was about American slavery and the N-word, or a depiction of a lynching was put on this butterfly, you'd all be appalled. The swastika is the N-word to all humanity. No excuses, zero tolerance. This ends today. Thank you.
We'll have additional opportunity for additional comment at the end of the meeting if anyone else would like to come forward.
I'd like to say something.
Sure. Oh, okay. Sorry, Debbie.
Although our board has not officially discussed this together, and we certainly trust the administration needs to deal with some of the specifics, I do want to say that on behalf of the board, that this is not only a Jewish problem, this is a community issue. And so we need to better understand how to handle the most hateful of symbols. And I have to trust that moving forward, that there will be increased sensitivity. That's my fervent hope. But speaking for the entire board, you know, maybe I shouldn't because we haven't talked about it, but I think there's disappointment and outrage and no excuse and kind of revulsion for what happened on everyone's part. And I feel badly that it needs to be a particular segment of the population who only speaks, because there's a bigger community and at stake here. It's all of us. So I just wanted to say that I think we all share in the disappointment and the anger to some extent, and the feeling that this should not, be allowed to happen again. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'd like to echo that and just say how very sorry I am that this happened. And, I've sat in all the meetings this fall, and I feel like I've gone through this with the community this year, and I know this district and this administration is trying to do right by you and our students, and I'm just very sorry that this happened. It's a very unfortunate way to end the year. Okay, so we're going to continue on. Next up is the consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the consent agenda?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Reports and recognition, board chair report. I have no report tonight. The superintendent's report.
Two things. I want to let the board know that when I learned about this issue earlier this morning, I was in touch with Lauren, and we're in the middle of an investigation. The board can expect much more information as we work through and fully understand what exactly happened and why and how. And the board certainly has my commitment as well as the community that this won't happen again.
Thank you.
I wanted to take a minute. We have some young men in the room who have joined us for every board meeting this year. And they're behind the scenes. They do yeoman's work ensuring that our meetings are able to be broadcast and captured on WeTV so people can find them. And tonight, in addition to being here, they are worried about their final exams. So I just wanted to bring them forward for some brief recognition. Max von Bartel, Michael Casera, and Jack Mariani, can you just come and step forward for a minute? And I'd like the board to join me in thanking the
I've said this before, but many nights we're here late, and I know that these guys haven't even started their homework yet. They haven't, I've seen like their moms dropping pizza off for them some nights and things, and it's just like, oh, you know, we just sort of, so we're very grateful. We couldn't do it without you, so thank you again. Committee reports, teaching and learning.
Okay, so we haven't met as a committee. We had our.
Yes, we did.
This is very hard to talk about, considering what we were just talking about. Social emotional learning curriculum review. We had a meeting. They're doing good stuff. I think like every other part of our curriculum, it's they're still studying it, and they're doing. You know, it's going to be taking from this program and from that program. Kim is awesome. I just can't believe they're doing a lot of work, and it's very different because you're dealing with pre-K through 12th grade, and so the high school will probably use a different program than the younger grades. And then I also went to the last youth council meeting of the year, and I know most of you have heard the NPR program with the Easton family. I wanted to repeat something that Margaret Priest said. She works for Wilton Youth Services, that they're open all summer, that just because school's over, the town group that works with youth is open, so people should keep that in mind as they need something in the summer. And I think that that's all I can handle.
I would add that the Teaching and Learning Committee met this past week, and our main topic of discussion, Don Shells from the high school joined us, was we need to start reviewing graduation requirements, especially as it relates now that the SAT is a school-administered test that's used for assessment. We need to understand what's the appropriate score levels that should be assessed in determining meeting the requirements for graduation. So this is all preliminary talks. He shared with us a rough draft. We gave him a lot of feedback to go back and consider, and we'll continue to have that discussion. And as that becomes more tuned and we come more to a consensus on that, we'll bring that forward and present that to the board. So that will probably be like in September timeframe that we'll have that discussion.
Great, thank you. Business operations.
Yes, quickly. We met, we had not met for a couple of meetings, but we did meet last week, laid out our agenda for the coming year. Our next meeting will be September 6th, when we begin to reconvene as the school year begins. The Brad Unger work is continuing, getting our metrics put together and the analysis done there that we're targeting, and that will, hopefully we'll have something by the end of July in that regard. We talked about developing an approval process of budget transfers within the budget, for moving funds within the budget. And we'll work on that, and that will be something that the entire board will have to approve. We'll come forward with a recommendation there. And had a discussion about establishing a reserve account. The state legislature has suggested that all districts do establish a reserve account. And so we need to develop the criteria for that, and then probably go before the Board of Finance and even perhaps the Board of Selectmen to get that approved. But that's one of our projects. And we laid out our agenda items for the coming year. Okay.
Debbie, do you have anything to?
I have a subcommittee report.
Excellent.
Can I do the subcommittee report? It's related to the Board of Finance and tangentially to the board, to the Business Ops Committee. But the Board of Finance officially convened a subcommittee to develop a survey, and the goal is to survey the taxpayers of Wilton to determine where they would like their tax dollars to be applied. So our subcommittee, consisting of a Board of Ed rep, a Board of Finance rep, Board of Selectmen rep, and then a wonderful community volunteer named David Rothstein, yes, connected, who has expertise in developing surveys, et cetera. So he has been, and also David Kelly, who's on the Economic Development Commission. But anyway, we've worked for 3 or 4 meetings, come up with sort of a very draft of a survey. It needs to be fairly short, obviously clear, and focused on fiscal issues. For a while, we were thinking, oh, we're going to ask everything, and then we sort of narrowed it down. However, schools, of course, are in that. And I think the concept behind the school-related questions is really asking people to what extent, what kind of quality school system do you want to see, and to what extent are you willing to pay for it? And I just said that very crudely. The questions are more sophisticated. They are not yet in final draft, but the report was presented by Richard Creeth last night to the full Board of Finance at a meeting, and I will distribute the PowerPoint that was made last night. So if you all have any questions, comments, suggestions, let me know. So as we finalize the questions, you can be satisfied with them. You'll still see a final before it gets implemented, but it would be, I think the goal is to implement it sometime in the fall. And it's really important in this survey to get as representative a sample as possible of the public, so it's not only parents or only seniors or only newcomers. It's a representative sample of the whole community. And that's where David Rothstein's expertise comes in, as well as subject or question design. So it's supposed to be sort of statistically valid is the goal.
Debbie, do you know how it's going to be distributed?
At some point, and again, I don't know all the ins and outs, but the hope is that it will be online, it will be anonymous, and it will be adaptive, meaning that depending on your answer to a certain question, that will either lead to another question or not lead to some other path. So it's really kind of tailored to, as you answer it, there's sort of going to be a logical progression of questions depending on your answer to the question will lead to another question.
So it's like a map test.
That I'm not sure. It will not be scored. It will not be reported as such. But it's supposed to be, helpful information as the Board of Finance. I think the frustration has been that they hear from a relatively small percentage of the community. And while it's vocal and it's important, they are sometimes guessing at what the whole community would like, especially since the voter turnout tends to be on the low side.
Right.
So they're trying to sort of confirm or affirm or find out exactly where the taxpayers' priorities are in a short sort of way of doing it, again, focused. So again, I'll be sending you a draft, and it was presented at the Board of Finance last night
Right.
in a PowerPoint. So I'll just send you what our work is to date, which is preliminary. And again, if you have suggestions or questions, just let me know.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Policy Committee, we have several policies ready to go to discuss and review, but since we're not going to be meeting again until the fall, we decided to hold them. But we have a number of policies on school lunch, lunch charging, substance-free workplace, amongst others. So we'll have those for you when we reconvene in the fall. Review and discuss the continuing ed end-of-year report, which is always a highlight. So Dolores and Emily.
Most of you know Emily Down, supervisor of children's programs and continuing education. I'm just going to jump right to the academic points. And this year, the most important, the highlight was the expansion of the Miller Driscoll child care program, where we occupy now the dedicated classroom space. That dedicated space allowed for greater security for the students. We were able to expand that program to provide 50-plus contracted students and drop-ins. That allowed us to build on the financial success of the whole program. We opened that registration on June 12th, and the Miller Driscoll after-school program is filled already. The other important highlight is that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Emily just a bit, is that we worked this year, and I don't know if most of you knew this, with Wilton Youth Services, and we had some
a role in the Goes In anxiety programs that we oversaw. We watched intently as it rolled out throughout the year, how that played out. And what we decided to do for next year is to put it in our schedule of classes and to highly subsidize that program. We are going to most likely offer it at the Miller Driscoll School, but we are most definitely going to offer it at the Sino Mill School. We're going to offer 4 semesters of that, and like I said, highly subsidize that program so it's available to all students.
Our enrichment programs are really popular. We received over 2,600 registrations this year for students in K through 8, which was an increase of 10% this year. The highlights were increased STEM programs and sports and fitness programs. On Air grew exponentially with Skip and Brian in the new TV studio. So students had the opportunity, to offer it in the after school as well as, the before school. STEAM Lab Challenge with second grade teacher Kelly Magner. She took what she learned from Camp Invention over the summer, which is a STEM program, and brought it to an after school program and utilized the new STEAM Lab at Miller Driscoll. Ultimate Frisbee for high school students, new program, fed from a middle school program run by middle school PE teacher Mike Roberto. And thanks to Chris McDougall, who allocated field space for this new program also. With regard to summer programs, we're expanding from 3 weeks into 7 weeks. We also absorbed the Summer Independent program, where we have roughly 10 new programs. Camp Invention is returning for the 4th consecutive year with 2 programs this year. So we're running for 2 distinct weeks, and we've doubled the enrollment. It's about 110 the second week, and we have like 80 students the first week. So that's here at Wilton High School.
We continue to subsidize the SAT program. We offer that program in the summer. Again, and we will pick up the Goes In programs and subsidize those as well. In terms of adult education, we had a rough fall, but we picked it up again in the winter, spring, and we made up for that fall. We saw a big increase after the reconstruction of the tennis courts, a whole revitalization of the tennis program. We expanded the fine arts program. We put in a new set of classes at the 3:30 time slot, and we have it resulted in establishing a new special interest group, and Bridge it's hugely popular at the 3:30 time slot and again at the 6 o'clock time slot. And one of the most important changes we're making for the adult education community is that we are eliminating the $10 registration fee. The top 5 programs, we traditionally end with that, and I just want to say the number 5 program is our canning program and beverage program with Pam Lillis. Specifically, I want to really shout out to her. She is a Wilton resident. She is a master preserver, and she owns a small company here, and whatever she does, she draws a huge crowd. So she's in the top 5. We had a new art program. The doodle art of Zentangle was number 4. The number 3 program was one of our Tech Friday classes. It was a streaming media class, AKA, how can I reduce my cable bill? A huge group came to that. Bridge with Bridge Master and Wilton resident Mike Hess was the number 2, and the number 1 program was tennis. Smash it, win it, love it, serve it, tennis.
Do we have pickleball?
We do. We have a Saturday program that's going on right now.
It's a relatively small program. We only have 2 courts. They're ghost-lined on the tennis courts at Middlebrook. I think last year that was our most popular program. I had about 24 people attend that program.
Yeah, we took it.
So Zentangle.
Zentangle. Doodle art, patterns, and really interesting. We posted a video of that on Instagram, our Instagram page.
And Facebook.
And Facebook.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Questions?
Yes.
Yes. No, I was just gonna make a comment about the Go Zen because it just shows how much we depend on the continuing ed program. I mean, I think when Wilton Youth Services tried it out, it's been incredibly popular, and expanding it, obviously we know our kids need to Zen. So thank you. It's just having you guys pick it up and grow it and expand it. It's just really helpful.
It's important.
It is important.
Yes.
On the extended day, extended care program, are you filled now? Are you at 50? Is that?
Miller Driscoll
Yeah.
after school is
Yeah.
filled.
So you are filled.
But not Cider Mill or the before school at Miller Driscoll. There's still openings there.
Okay, but just the after school is filled.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
getting close on the other, I'm sure.
Well, the traditional pattern of enrollment for Cider Mill is that it rolls out slowly. Miller Driscoll parents that at the young age, especially at kindergarten, they need childcare right away, so they sign up immediately. So within hours, that closes. Before school is still open, but again, we anticipate great success. The space is beautiful, and we have made many enhancements to that space, and we funded those enhancements to accommodate more families.
I think again, it shows, the viability of the remodeling that was done there. And the rationale for doing it, and it's all good. It's
Yes,
great.
absolutely. It's beautiful.
Other questions? Lori, anybody? Well, thank you again.
Thank you for your time.
For your ongoing work, such a service to the community. Next, review and discuss the school climate plan update.
So we have Ms. Simo, our Safe School Climate Coordinator, and she's got some partners. You have to just project yourself.
Okay. I just want to start, this is a celebration tonight of some of the great work that's been done, which is really hard following the situation that happened today. Or that was discussed. So, although we're doing great work, and I'm passionate about this work, there's still much to be done. I just think we need to acknowledge that to start. Okay. Not Vanna. Help me out here, Cory. This is completing the second year of this position. Space bar? On that, okay. And it's a big position, it encompasses a lot. So just quickly breaking down the areas that we're really focusing on year to year. Safety and assessment, as well as programs and practices. It's important to look at safety, not only physical, but social and emotionally, parent engagement and communication, connectedness, which we know is such an important piece of keeping kids connected to school and less at risk, crisis intervention and support, and then our ongoing school climate initiatives, and student voice, which I think is such a critical piece of everything we're doing. Students have better answers in addressing problems sometimes than the adults, most of the time, actually. Okay. So in the area of safety and assessment and programs and practices, I serve on the District Emergency Operations Committee, which really looks at physical safety, but one thing that we're going to be adding is social and emotional preparedness. So our emergency operation plans really looks at natural disasters and things like that, physical things that can happen in a school, but we know that social emotional issues can come up as well, and having plans in place to address those prior to it happening, I think is very important. This year, we were able to digitize the student safety and support plans, which are plans that are put into place after there's been a verified act of bullying, which means I get copies of all those plans and can monitor and make sure all that information gets shared year to year and building to building. Another important thing that we focused on this year was implementing the gaggle filtering software, which, and it's not a gotcha, we really want to make sure that we're keeping kids safe, and so it gives us another capacity to identify potential safety concerns. Provided consultation across the district and all the schools around student concerns, whether it's at-risk students or threat assessments that maybe needed to be done. Another thing, a programmatic thing that we have focused on when we're really excited about what's to come is the Boomerang Transition Program, which takes our orientation program and turns it really on its head. It was well received, I think, at the high school this year. It's a program for freshmen. I think we only hit the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to come and what we can do. But we know that when kids transition from building to building, that really can be an at-risk time. So I think this program is a great way to connect our students and make them feel welcome. And we're going to be launching the program in the transition from 5th to 6th grade at Middlebrook. And it uses student leaders to really help the students transition. And I think ultimately impacts school climate in a very positive way. And then there's a continued focus on educational practices around social emotional learning, how the classroom welcomes students, and we continue to do professional development in that area, particularly at the high school and the middle school this year. So for future work in this area, we're looking at refresher training for our threat assessment teams. It's been a few years. Continue to support our new transition programs, and we're going to be introducing next year an anonymous application that students can report any type of concerns truly anonymously, and so we feel that that will be another way of trying to put all the measures we can in keeping kids safe. In terms of the area of communication and parent engagement and support, I'm proud of the parenting series that we were able to get off the ground. This was really well received by the community. Susan Dowerfield was running this program, although there was a long waiting list. And so Kevin had the great idea, and our social workers took it on this year. And so we were able to get funding through Youth Council and provide 4 sessions. This year it's a 6-session program, and it really helps us partner with parents in a positive way. The social workers that took part were really empowered, I think, to work proactively with families, and I think it was really well received. So next year we're going to be adding an evening session because there was a request for that as well. The collaboration with the Wilton Youth Council has been so critical to a lot of the work that was done, and we were able to offer programs through their support to parents, programs that the students got to see. For example, Michael Fallon, the student body saw it, and then again the parents were able to come and see what the students saw, which created discussion, I think, in the home. And he's a powerful speaker. It's not really, he basically is a one-man show and is able to act out lots of different scenarios that students may face. And he's been coming for many years. It's very powerful. But the idea of having our parents see what the students see, I think, is something that's important and we're going to continue to do. We were able to show angst to our faculty, 612, as well as provide a parent program. And that's really on the heels of the Sonia Luther data around the high rates of anxiety, and it really helps, I think, to understand oftentimes kids that are anxious, they show it in different ways and we may misinterpret what we're seeing. So it was, I think, a really important training. The DBT Steps A training, really looking at, that was our mental health team, K-12, was trained, and we're in the process of looking at how we're going to implement this as a Tier 1 intervention for students. That really helps them regulate their emotions, develop distress tolerance skills, and be able to manage what's coming at them. And then the wellness survey that people are probably familiar with, which is showing that we have increased rates of anxiety, significant, and there's a lot of work to be done on the heels of that. We invited local therapists in to talk about anxiety, what they're seeing outside of, what they're seeing in the community and their practices, and help us with strategies in the schools. And in terms of future work in this area, we're looking at the idea of a parent university in the fall, which offers workshops for parents on a whole bunch of topics with a keynote speaker, and then quarterly newsletters, just updating the community on the work that we're doing. I'm going to try to speed this up because I know I want to get the kids out of here, and just a couple of you have exams. So connectedness, again, another important piece. How do we make sure that all our students are connected? We know a lot of them are, but there are students that aren't. So continue to support projects in this area. At the high school has done a relationship mapping exercise which identifies which students may not be connected. Middlebrook does the activity as well, a little different than the high school, but looking at the student version of who they are connected to and using that data to connect students who may not be connected. And then where our work is, how do we identify those that are disconnected? Sometimes it's easy for us to see those kids, and then there's other kids that are more difficult. And so we're looking at different types of screening measures that might identify those students to make sure no one is overlooked. Crisis intervention and support. We supported the high school in developing our crisis team, kind of morphed into a mental health awareness team, and really making sure that we're all communicating about our students of concern and issues that may be coming up in school. Again, offered consultation to teams. Our district mental health team got together a few times this year, the first time in many years. We did some staff development. We offered a bunch of training. I think I'd like to highlight, we did the suicide gatekeeper training for all staff 612, which I think is really important, that we're all making sure that it's an evidence-based approach to supporting students. Restorative practices we're continuing to offer to more and more staff. We had Joanne Freiberg come in from the state and actually do a workshop on site. We've gotten really good feedback around that. And then, talked about that, the anonymous app I talked about. Working on some resource manuals for not only our mental health staff, but also our administrators when we're looking at bullying, mean behavior, and harassment, making sure that they have all the resources they have to support those students. So this is where the kids are going to share their great work, and I appreciate you guys being here. So our school climate and improvement efforts, I continue to support all the schools around data collection and the analysis, the action planning, and our climate surveys, organizing consultation across the district, offering support to the student and adult leadership teams, helping them to identify plans and carrying them out, and then overseeing the climate implementation and results. So some of the highlights at the high school, our advisory program in the freshman and sophomore year has been revamped and really linked to the social emotional learning standards put out by CASEL. We had a team building project that we did this year, and we've had some opportunity to do shared experiences in all advisories, as well as a place where we can talk about issues of concern as they come up. In terms of dealing with stress, which continues to be a concern among students, we had, for the first time, no homework break over Thanksgiving, and we got really great feedback about that, and we're looking to the future of how we can offer more of that next year. I talked about relationship mapping. Not only do we do the annual climate surveys, but the high school really wanted to get more information and look a little more deeply. So we conducted focus groups with students, various groups of students, parents, and faculty, and we'll be working on consolidating that information over the summer and presenting that in the fall. And then Link, who I talked about, in terms of impacting climate, if you know the high school at all, there's the jungle where the seniors hang out, and freshmen always hear about that and are really nervous, and we were able to impact that in a positive way. Kids weren't afraid to walk through the jungle, our freshmen, because I think we had trained 80 link leaders, juniors and seniors, that welcome them, and so that's the beginning piece of how we can impact the climate. And I'm going to turn it over to Maya to talk about her great project. You can stand up, you can sit, whatever you want to do.
Maya, would you just take a second to introduce yourself to the board?
Okay, I'm Maya Fazio, I'm a senior. So I wouldn't have been able to do this project without the immense help that I received from Ms. Zemo, Mr. Hunter, and Dr. O'Donnell. Up until this point, the creator of this project was anonymous because this wasn't about me. This was about all those people who feel like they don't have a voice and are struggling in whatever battle they might be fighting. I wanted to be that voice for them and let them know I'm by their side. So my whole purpose for this project stemmed from my belief that it's hard enough to be a high schooler, let alone a high school girl in today's age, especially taking into account pressures that surround us, whether that be family, friends, peers, media, or otherwise. Coming from someone who has struggled with anxiety during the duration of my time at the high school, I know how easy it is to feel alone amongst the 1,000 or so students around us. And through this project, I thought it would maybe make at least one person feel like they weren't alone. And every time they walk into the bathroom, give them a little friendly reminder that although they might feel alone, there are so many people surrounding them who think they are beautiful, capable, intelligent, and strong individuals. I've walked into the bathroom on many accounts and have seen people scrutinizing their images in the mirror, and that's sort of a precedent that's been set for girls in today's age. And I don't think it's fair because our potential reaches far beyond what we see in the mirror or what a grade in Power School says. It does hurt me to think that other people were feeling how I might have felt at times. I think at times we turn a blind eye to what people are going through, and these paintings in the bathroom serve as a symbol that I hear these people and what they're going through, and I understand and I want them to know that I know they're doing their best and that they will get through this. So if one person sees these paintings and it's their reason to carry on, then the project has served its purpose.
Maya, what kind of, if I could just ask, what kind of feedback have you gotten from your friends?
Well, I actually did it after I left for internship, so I haven't been in school. And she was anonymous until tonight, so nobody knew who did this.
Oh, really?
But people have taken notice.
I can give a little bit of since I'm a junior, I'm still in high school, I think there's been a lot of positive feedback. Like a lot of people have taken pictures of them and actually said how much they liked them, sent them to other people outside of even the school about how good of a project it was, and I think it's positively.
All right. They are in all of the ladies' bathrooms?
There's 6 of the bathrooms that have the tile.
Okay.
So all the bathrooms that have tile are in it.
Okay. What about boys' bathrooms? Has anybody done anything for the boys? I mean, for the boys, I think, no,
Somebody else's project, right?
Yeah, but I mean, so.
We're going to build on this.
Yeah, absolutely,
It's
yeah.
not on our climate team, but came up
It's great, it's
it took longer
fantastic,
than we
yeah.
expected, but it's powerful. So
Yeah,
I'm sure.
it is. Well done. Well done.
Okay, Middlebrook highlights. We have 3 Middlebrook students that are going to speak about some work that they've been doing down there. Sloan Barker, Gayatri, and Gavin. You guys you can speak from there if you'd like. This is the only slide I have.
So hi, my name is Gavin Gargano, and I'm a student on 6th grade in Middlebrook School. I'm here tonight to talk about one of our programs, Hidden Gems. Hidden Gems is an amazing part of Middlebrook. Every Friday morning in the lobby before team base, a performer stands on the stage showing a unique talent in front of the whole Middlebrook community. As written by Ms. Schlitz, Graham Wheeland, and I, the idea is to see students in ways you've never seen them before and celebrate their talents with one another. I was lucky enough to be the first performer on the Hidden Gems stage. The moment I stood on the stage, I was frightened, almost so that I thought I would not be able to perform. It's scary getting up in front of your peers and teachers, but when I started to sing, the fears disappeared. I finished the first song and got one of the largest round of applause I've ever heard. What I took away from this experience was that the clapping was as a whole our Middlebrook community and not just for me. It takes a lot of confidence and self-esteem to perform in front of everyone, and my school climate offers that. And trust me, it's worth it. Since my performance, I've had the opportunity to become a producer and organize the performances to ensure that everything is in place. The Chromebooks we all use helped me in organizing all of these performances. A Google Classroom was created to let many students sign up for a date to perform on. After receiving all the information, I created a calendar to make sure that everyone was set in stone. This whole program was a very fun experience for me, being on stage and behind the scenes. Hopefully, I will be able to help this inspiring program next year.
So hello, I'm Gayatri Kaimal, and I'm a member of Team Change because I want Middlebrook School to be a place where students feel safe and excited to learn. I have had the opportunity to work on many projects, and one of the major projects I was involved with for Team Change was the Anti-Bullying Pledge. Using data from one of the climate surveys that students took at the beginning of the year, Team Change realized that we need to make sure students in this school will be upstanders. We created an anti-bullying pledge and used a student-led presentation to introduce it. Everyone who signed the pledge had their picture put up on a wall, and that way, if another student needed someone else to reach out to, they could just take a look at that bulletin board. This project will be continued next year, and the upcoming 6th graders will get a chance to sign this pledge as well, and I just want to say that I'm honored to have the opportunity to work on this project.
Hi, I'm Sloan Barker, an 8th grade student at Middlebrook. So this year, Team Change brought back an old tradition, and this tradition was Someday Wishes. So Someday Wishes, not Sunday, Someday Wishes is a program where students can make a wish and the school makes it come true. For one example, one student's wish was to assist one of their old teachers for a day. Another student asked to play basketball with one of her teachers and some of her friends during lunch. As you can see, Someday Wishes not only bring joy to the students, but they also strengthen connections between students and teachers. Programs such as Someday Wishes don't cost a lot of money, but they have a very positive impact on our school's climate. On behalf of Middlebrook Student Body, we want to thank the Board of Education for allowing programs like this to take place in our school. Also, as an 8th grade member of Team Change, I want to point out that I really enjoyed granting Someday Wishes because people were walking around the school with smiles on their faces. Specifically, I know that I've made a lot of connections between students I haven't even spoken to in the years before this one, and teachers that worked so hard to help me grant some of the Someday Wishes. Overall, I just want to say that through Team Change, I've been able to have so much fun with new friends and participate in amazing programs. Finally, I want to give a special thanks to Principal Phelps for agreeing to bring back this program and working with me all throughout this year to make it happen.
Great job, you guys. Blow me away.
Yeah.
Great job. Okay, Cider Mill, I'm going to do a quick update. Their focus this year was on the art show that I think they do regularly. This picture in the middle is our students doing data analysis and setting their goals for the year. This is 3rd graders, which are very impressive. Some of them came up from the team at Miller Driscoll. But the art show, they really shifted to have a flair about culture and getting to know one another and your personal identity, looking at your family ancestry, and so it was really geared towards a cultural perspective, and it was very well received. They also worked on the Be Kind project, which was a Helping Hands, that's their student team there, which was linked into promoting the 3 R's, and classroom earned stickers, being caught following the 3 R's, being kind, receiving a compliment, and then once the beehive was filled, the class would get some type of reward, and there was a lot of positive talk about that project as well. And then down at Miller Driscoll, the focus was on Mindsets for Learning, which looks at empathy, optimism, flexibility, resiliency, and persistence. They had assemblies on each of these 4 principles. This picture here is one of them. There was a mindfulness assembly. I'm sorry I missed it. I had an issue I was dealing with in another school, but a 1st grade student actually presented to the entire faculty at Miller Driscoll about mindfulness and the idea of the Zen Den. She wrote a grant for that. I hear it was absolutely amazing, Kathy. I'm so sorry I missed it. But
I heard it at the PTA presentation where she was asking for the grant. It was great.
Amazing.
I wanted to go to the Zen Den myself. It's great. We all need it.
Yes, and I think all the schools are gonna like jump on that idea. And then the R Stars is what their team is called down there. They did several projects around improving kindness, specifically in the cafeteria and the bus. This picture over here is their team. They had some elaborate way of getting information from the bus drivers about behavior, and am I presenting it well? I hope.
You're doing.
Okay, good. And then this is, I think, another picture of some of their goals. They've actually set some goals for next year. They're ahead of all the other schools. Go figure that one. And this is the most adorable thing. It's 2 minutes, but they actually, Mrs. Burdick's class wrote a song to the whole idea of the mindset concepts. So it's worth.
Empathy is good for you and me. We practice empathy to be all we can be. We show each other kindness, let them know that we care. Empathy is in the air. The optimism train brings sunshine when there is rain. The optimism train, positive thinking on the brain. Keep thinking I can do this 'cause I have a real strong brain. All aboard the optimism train. Woo, woo, when things don't go our way, sometimes we wanna say, why is this happening? It's ruining my day. Look at this another way, let's think of what to do. That's flexible thinking, good for you. Persistence can be tough. You think I had enough, but wait, I won't give up. We think we struggle if we keep pushing through. That's what we need to do. Resilience. Sometimes we all fall down, but we don't wear a frown. If you fall down or struggle, get up off the ground. We pick ourselves back up and try our best every day. That's the Miller Driscoll way. One more verse. Now we are on our way. We're stronger every day. We grow by using mindsets. They help us work and play. We use the mindset boogie and we turn ourselves around. Nothing's gonna bring us down. Woo! We do the mindset boogie. We do the mindset boogie. We do the mindset boogie.
So that was and then lastly, when I took this position, I was really worried as a social worker that I was going to lose the kid contact. And I just feel so proud to be helping kids find their voice and work on these projects. And Julia came at the very beginning of the year, and when she first came to me with her ideas, I was like, this is great, but how are you ever going to pull it off? So I'll let her present, and if you want me to change the slides, I'll do that for you.
Well, my name is Julia Morneau. I'm a junior at the high school, and I run a foundation for mental health awareness called Little Minds, which aims to educate communities on...
Sorry, Julie, I don't mean to, I just want everyone to hear that one more time.
Yeah.
My name is Julia, I'm a junior at the high school, and I run a foundation, okay? For the adults in the room, that's a big deal. I know it's not a big deal for you. This is what you do.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, honestly. It's something that, people are like, how do you have the time? But it's almost like I enjoy when it fills my free time, but it isn't like I'm doing schoolwork. It's something that I enjoy to do, and really, really why, I guess, Ms. Seaman was like, how can you pull it off? It's really, I do have a passion for what I do, and I enjoy it a lot, and I enjoy seeing kids' reactions towards this, trying to foster empathy and understanding of other kids. And really, my foundation, I've struggled with mental illness in my life, and I have a 3rd grade brother who does, and I have another 8th grade brother in Middlebrook. but really having younger siblings has kind of opened my eye into the struggles. My 3rd grade brother faces the same challenges I do, and I think really for him, seeing the response from some students about when he would, act out, or from what they would see, really to understand that some kids don't act a certain way because they want to, but because there's something else going on. And I think when kids are taught this at a young age is extremely important. And it doesn't seem like a foreign concept when you're taught going into the high school or Middlebrook what a mental illness is if you're taught it when you're younger. And I think it's something we shouldn't be scared to expose kids to, because a 5th of the kids in this country suffer from a mental illness, and a lot of times you don't know who it is. So that was really the goal. But this is, so at each different school we had different activities and projects going on depending on the actual ages, depending on what we expose them and how we expose the kids to the topic of mental health, stigma, and mental illness. But this was a project done by art class. We did a mental health art gallery at the high school, and really I have to thank, and I know she's not here, but Miss Brandt was here earlier, and Mrs. Estes, and the whole art department, really, because we had 10 to 15 art classes make projects, and have hundreds of students make projects towards this art gallery, ranging from drawings, computer graphics, 3D infographics, which I'll show you in a second, and this 3D collage of students that says, when I is replaced with we, even illness can become wellness. And they took pictures of hands. This was a photography class, and used string to connect all the hands together, which I really think echoed a strong message throughout the high school. And really the goal of this art gallery was, since you guys might assume like the high school, there's always something going on, and it's students are running everywhere every second and are stressed, and to have this integrated into the high school environment in a place where really when you walk right into high school, it's right there, students see it, and they get to, art is really helpful in this message that you can perceive it any way you want, and it tells its own story, which is why I think it was so impactful. And that was really the goal of this in the high school, as well as, we did a survey of the students of what they think we should improve on in mental health education. We administered a table summarizing each mental health disorder, what you can do if someone needs help for it. It was just a one double-sided sheet, so it's pretty easy that they can keep in their binder, because our other goal is, the reason why people sometimes may not understand why people struggle from mental health disorders is because there's kind of a lack of education or misunderstanding behind a certain disorder. So we really wanted to make sure, before we even go on more progress, that kids really know what each mental health disorder is, because that's kind of having that great background. But in terms of, this was a 3D infographics, and each student from this graphic design class had a fact kind of coming out of their mouth, and it was in 3D about mental health. And a lot of students stopped and looked at it, and I think it was a really powerful component to this week. But going on to some of the other fun things, so in Cider Mill, we had a shoe project, and the way this worked, it's an easy 3-step program on this website called walkinorshoes.org, and it is, students get to choose a shoe that they like, as you can see here. Some of them are the same actual shoe, but then they choose 3 unique characteristics about themselves that they feel embodies who they are. And each of these shoes, every class did it, and each student had a shoe, but they were all displayed in different ways. Some teachers didn't put the names on them, some of them had them color them in, some of them printed them in color, made them look 3D. There was a wide variety of the way these shoe projects were displayed, which gave even the class its own uniqueness, other than the actual student being, no one had the same shoe. And that was kind of to show, our main message in Cider Mill was that everyone walks on their own path in life, and that sometimes we can't see challenges people face on their own paths, but it's important that we recognize them and accept that, and that's kind of what the shoe represented. And we also integrated the 3 R's into a message for mental health, and all the students signed the stigma-free pledge, which basically said, we respect that students walk on paths that we can't see and face challenges we may not understand. We are responsible for helping and guiding our fellow classmates and teachers, really anyone in the school, through these challenges they face, and we are ready to learn about mental health. So we enjoyed integrating those 3 R's into theirs. They all got wristbands in in Miller Driscoll and Cider Mill. They got wristbands for the week that were green, and in the high school in Middlebrook, we did a project called the Talk Dot, which is any student who signs a stigma-free pledge, which was both in Middlebrook and the high school, gets a sticker, which we have here, and we can give to you guys. But it is, the goal is to have more students have this Talk Dot, and it really serves as a purpose that you're trying to stomp out stigma and mental health. But right here is a picture. I'm right there. This is my little brother. And we took a picture with their shoes for their class. I've been in there a couple times to talk to the kids about what I do. And I was really, honestly, very, really shocked and glad by the reaction of the students. I got some letters from students I didn't know from a school that were really positive, and I think a lot of kids were really impacted by it because some of them kind of said, maybe I'm not this age and maybe I'm not a high schooler, but I still understand what she's talking about. And I think that was really the goal of this awareness week, was kind of to say, whether you're in third grade or high school, there's experiences you're going to go through, and it's important other people support it. And we decorated Cider Mill for the week. And this was that Middlebrook signed. As you can see, they had a lot of fun with that one. And in Miller Driscoll, we did a presentation on Inside Out, and we showed the kids a 1-minute video clip. Sorry, this was just for second graders, but we had a dress up green day in all the schools. But that was how we integrated a little more component into their school, was their dress up green day, because green is the color for mental health awareness. But this was their poster, which was the same as the Cider Mill poster, and we hang that up right in the lobby. And this Inside Out activity was, they watched a video and we reflected, because Inside Out has a really strong message in mental health teachings for kids. And I think that was a good group activity for them. And Elena White, who you guys most likely know, is continuing on working on the 5 character traits, and which were, I think, like empathy, persistence, and that whole song we saw, which was really cute. And with them, and worked on that in the week. But really, just in the future, we're missing Mona, and I really cannot thank her enough, because it's a lot to be in contact with all different people and actually organize something in the district. And without her, I wouldn't have been able to do any of it. And I'm really excited to expand the program. We want to add more to it, more activities, even create. We don't want it to just be a week. We want it to be something that is throughout the school, an activity maybe that they're doing weekly, something that's always in that environment, because we don't want to just focus on 1 week, but make it into their lives. And that's kind of the goal. In addition to, I'm currently working on expanding a program throughout Fairfield County schools for this, based on what our success of this week, creating a program other schools can implement into their district. Because although it's hard to look at and see there's improvement for mental health, we're actually a very fortunate school in Fairfield County, and what we're doing is a lot compared to some other schools. So really the goal is to not just have Wilton, but Fairfield County as a community start working on this. So.
I appreciate you thanking me, but all these ideas were really incredible.
And thanks to I forgot to say, all the other school principals and all the school leaders, all the students in the other schools, that's also a very important component. There was so much help from other schools, so I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay, I'm almost done. But some committee work that we did this year. One big focus this year was around attendance and chronic absenteeism, which is a concern and such a red flag for so many of our students. And really analyzing where we are, developing consistent procedures and practices across K-12, and a referral process, creating assessment forms, and just being more proactive around attendance concerns. And one thing that we're really excited about and other schools are looking at is we were able to get some grant funding to provide an attendance interventionist, which really works intensively with some of these at-risk kids, and primarily the families. We found there were 7, she started in March, there were 7 referrals, 3 accepted cases, but something we're going to build on in the future. We find with some of these students and families that are at risk, it really sucks a lot of the mental health resources, and so to have someone that can go into the home and work with the families, we saw some really good improvement with the cases that she worked on. So again, that's an area we're going to build on. And then we formed the district climate committee. We met 3 times, we'll be meeting more, 4 times, once a quarter next year. I think there's a lot of work to be done. We identified our strengths and weaknesses, looked at initiatives. Really next year, a specific focus around cultural competency and possibly some type of district climate statement. We're going to review our climate survey and look at how we're going to be administering that moving forward. And we also, one idea I have is to bring someone in to do a workshop around microaggression, really looking at some of the bias we have that we don't even realize we have, and doing that with that team first, and then how do we bring that into the buildings, and that's going to be an area of focus as well for the adults to start with. And then another important piece of the job, I feel, is just making sure we're connected in the community and what the local resources are. And I serve on a regional crisis team, and we've gotten some great professional development this year through that team. Regional Networks of Care, which offers some grant money we're looking at right now around suicide prevention. The state has a lot of money over the next 3 years in that area, and primarily that we know that the suicide rates are increasing. Serving on the Youth Council and Parent Connection, that collaboration, social emotional learning networking meetings, which I've been involved in and have really good resources, the Domestic Violence Task Force, as well as the Social Emotional Learning Curriculum Review Committee, and then the last slide is just around professional development. Try to make sure we're looking at, again, threat assessment and keeping kids safe, connected, and also social emotional learning and how we're working to create a safe environment for all students. That's it. So again, just to end, I think we've done a lot of great things this year, and I think we have a lot of work to do. And I think just even in terms of some of the more recent issues that have come up in terms of our focus for next year, we'll be looking at that very closely. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, I guess, the first comment is how fortunate we are to have all of you guys. I mean, how lucky are we? And I shed a tear today looking at the newspaper, the Post, and the cover story is wonderful, this cute 12-year-old girl from New Jersey who committed suicide from bullying. And reading the article just broke my heart. So thank you for what you're doing on the bullying aspect. I mean, it's just, well, I can't imagine how I would feel as a parent if my child did that. So, and it's, I don't know. Anyway, so thank you for all of the help and support. And my only question is, your whole presentation dealt a lot with mental and emotional issues, et cetera, and connectiveness and things. What are we doing, or maybe it appears somewhere else, in the area of substance abuse? Right. Is that part of your purview, or does it show up, or is it somewhere else in the system that, it didn't seem to get any mention, and it bothers me that it's an issue, and I think here in town, we kind of look the other way, not here. Well, you're kidding ourselves if we said.
Yeah, I didn't include.
Yeah.
I probably should have. But we have a teen talk counselor, which is through Kids in Crisis in the high school. It's part-time. We hope to grow it. But that is primarily around helping students with substance abuse or families, as well as some of our more really at-risk kids that need some family intervention. And what's nice about this position being connected with Kids in Crisis is that we have backup of our whole agency and resources. So if kids get infractions for some type of substance abuse, they can take a lesser consequence and meet with this counselor who can then assess and hook them up with resources. In terms, we feel like our DBT skills, when we have that being implemented, the more we can teach kids regulation skills and how to manage, that's going to help them in terms of prevention, and that's really why the Youth Council really put the funding towards that. That was for opioids, because we know over time that becomes a coping mechanism. So if we can give kids skills early, we're going to be in better shape. In terms of the high school, we brought in a former graduate recently to speak to the juniors. He graduated in 2008 and is in recovery, and shared his story. I don't know, Julie, I think you might have been there. really great feedback because he was so relatable. He knew some of the staff, he was sitting in their seats not paying attention to the presentation how many years ago, and he is with an agency and is actually willing to work with and run some groups of our kids. So we're doing a lot, I just
Okay.
didn't include it.
I just don't want us to lose sight of that and pretend it doesn't exist, because it does.
It does, yeah.
It's here, and we just,
Yeah, the presentation was really good, I think. There was
Yeah.
positive feedback from what I could tell. A lot of students were asking questions and responding to that. I think it was a very relatable presenter and showed kind of no matter where you come from, that you're at risk and it's something.
okay, that's all. Yeah, thank you. For now, just keep it up, keep going.
Other questions?
I just have one comment, that I'm so impressed with the student participation and the student voice, and I see that as a push throughout the district on many different fronts, and to see it, live examples or specific examples is wonderful. I also love that it's a K-12 effort, that it's not only the middle school or only the high school, that there seems to be there is a K-12 look, which I think is healthy and important to start early and build the sensitivity and the awareness and the acceptance. So thank you.
Do you find in your schools that your classmates are more willing to get involved and to stand up now that they see that you guys are getting involved? Like, can you see? Good.
The student response to with our program called Team Change. Like at our school, it's a big deal because we've been working on overall school climate and everything that's been going on in our schools just to make it a better place. And when kids see a lot of us just get up there and do we're just trying to make the school better. They want to help out and they want to do as much as possible. So.
I think it's wonderful.
We have a lot of after-school clubs and activities that they can get involved in, even if they're not on Team Change. So they have the opportunity to make a difference and have their voice heard too.
And you have ways to make everybody feel involved.
Yes. Because I guess Youth to Youth, which is another big program. I guess that they're expanding their after-school one day a week for 2 hours or something after school on one day to the mornings too, so more people can join because a lot of people are interested. So I don't know if the high school is, but Middlebrook is really trying to work and connect with all the students.
Yeah, I was personally impressed with Middlebrook and their students. I'm also, the high school has done a great job, but when I was working there was a lot of students who really are pushing for huge changes in school, which I think is amazing. In terms of the high school, yeah, I think that, there's a lot more people, really, since in my, aspect of mental health, a lot of people, if they say if you're not touched personally, as an individual, a friend, family, someone else, and that really speaks for yourself that, everyone's impacted by it in some way, whether you know it or not, and I think that's brought a lot of students to really want to act on the subject, and although we're still working on, getting a lot of people involved, I think as more students want to learn and, really just being open to learning about it is the most important thing, I feel and the best thing some students can do, and I think that that's being accomplished, and I think only time can really improve.
Great, thank you, Ann.
Guys, well, sure, you're just a junior, so we have you another full year, right? Good.
Great.
That's great.
Well, thank you again for everything.
Thank you.
Sam, thank you.
And up next, we have our special education.
Well, what a night to follow.
And
Yeah, top that.
Top that. I can't and won't top that. You received the student services report with the data. This is basically a replication of the data from the 16-17, so you could do a little comparative analysis. I have already received some feedback from some board members about things they'd like to see, adjustments to this data, redistribution, disaggregation of the data, which I will get a supplementary report to you with those responses that I am able to do with data that's been collected this year. If unable, I will add it to the plan for next year for data that needs to be collected. And I would also open it up to any of you, if there's something specific or an area you'd like to see in the report that's not there, now's the time to let me know so that I can prepare for data gathering in September, starting in September. So if there's something that you think would be helpful, I have some ideas, I've gotten some ideas, but if there are some other things that you would really like to see in this report, feel free to email me, send me some questions, ideas, and I will certainly put them into the hopper for data gathering, so that the staff and the teams can gather that data starting in September. But you'll get a supplemental in the next week or so, and certainly I can answer any questions you may have about the report.
Well, I appreciate your responsiveness, because I know I sort of probably overwhelmed you with questions. So, but anyway, thank you for your responsiveness. I just had one really general sort of question, a couple of them. Like, you know, if you needed to sort of give the elevator speech, if you will, for,
Yes.
you know, what went well this year, or what was revealed this year, and where you think, you know, a couple of areas you think we should sort of highlight or focus on for next year.
I would say what's beginning to bear fruit
Yep.
will be some of the work of the early intervention going on at Miller Driscoll and Cider Mill. I think we're seeing a greater connection in the reading instruction from Tier 1 all the way through special education, and I think we'll start to see some fruit begin to bear in the next couple of years related to that work. Both in terms of overall prevalence rate, but also in terms of student achievement in particularly the area of reading. The next area to really take a look at, and is well aligned with the curriculum work that's about to happen, is in mathematics. So we're going to be doing a fair amount of research and development in terms of children with disabilities in mathematics. And that's an area that the research has been a little slow to develop in. So we're going to be doing some work, and you'll be hearing from us on that in the next year. Certainly, as you can see, some of the social and emotional learning work, I think I'm hopeful that that will begin to have a fair amount of impact. If you go through some of the report, you'll see that there are some numbers that are disturbing in terms of students. You know, the prevalence rate is impacted by students who are experiencing anxiety and depression. When that becomes a disorder, often it requires special education and specialized instruction. And there is a function at play in the prevalence rates related to some of the things that were documented in Sonia Luther's works. So they are reaching to the level of requiring very specialized programming and instruction. So this work, partnering with Kim, partnering with folks around social and emotional learning, and understanding what are the things that we can do to positively impact students' ability to distress tolerance, and those kinds of things, I think will assist in this area as well. So I think those are, the soil is being tilled, the seeds are planted. We have some work to do to ensure proper implementation, ongoing implementation. So those are two big areas. And the other piece that I've learned about the Student Services Department as a whole is that we have some work to do in terms of professional learning and training that is at a level of intensity and consistency to really drive that kind of change ongoing. So those are three big elevator speeches about what the work is. I think what's hopeful and what brings optimism about this work is how aligned we are. I think Wilton, in my first year here, seeing the level of alignment moving forward between not only on the academic side, but that relationship between wellness and learning, I think is starting to come together and coalesce in what I believe will be some powerful work over the next couple of years.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I kind of perhaps suggest, your initial paper back in the fall of
Yes.
last year, where you outlined what special ed is here and the scope of what you have to do, I think we did. I sent that to all the Board of Finance members. I think they should also get this year in summary on the Board of Finance to really see the scope and the detail and what this work is all about, because it's comprehensive, and I think it's a great, your report is fantastic, and we have, I think, an ongoing job to try and continue to educate them about what it is you do, what it is what it means, and how important it is, because it's always a topic of conversation at every budget period that we have. And the better we can educate them or get them aware of what we're doing and what's going on, I think the better off we'll be. So I suggest that we get your report with a cover letter, perhaps from Kevin and from you, to each of the Board of Finance members, and say, guys, just read this, and you'll understand more about what it is we do. And I think it's important.
That's a great idea.
Good idea.
Okay.
Andrea, does the high school district outplacements, does that include community steps, or is that in addition to community steps?
Community Steps is an in-district program, so they would not be counted as students outplaced.
Okay.
And that number is growing.
Yeah.
And that's, as I look at that, I think you've heard us talk about, we have a fairly robust continuum of services, pre-K through 8. I think we have plenty of work to do to improve and develop the continuum of services at Wilton High School, and the 6-12 continuum of services, particularly in support of bright, capable kids who are really struggling with mental health issues. That's an area that where people are working very hard, but we're still losing too many kids, in my view, too many kids to private school outplacements, that can't always offer the level of robust academic work and robust, comprehensive high school support in terms of music and the arts and STEM, and so the kids have to give up a lot to go to those schools, and I think that's, we need to do better. So that's an area that we're going to need to focus on from the budget all the way on through, is looking at that continuum of services 6 through 12 to make sure that we have the mechanisms in place to keep kids here.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The major item that you'll see will have changed is obviously the grand total, the bottom line. From last month to this month, it moved 200,000. And what I want, and I did mention this at other meetings, but just the public to realize this is not a deficit, because there is certain there's certain expenditure items which are related to SPED, which we are not allowed to budget. So it will look like we go over budget every year, but we receive revenues from the state. And the revenues don't reside on this side, they reside on the town side. So we received an extra 200,000 we weren't sure we were gonna get. So in total, we got over about $1.6 million. So we are within budget with this revenue in place, but this is how the budget has to show. So that's why the major difference of that 200,000. We held most of the other expenditures and savings that we had. We had savings and changes with the custodian maintenance and some other areas, insurance savings. We held them and some other line items because of the different SPED expenditures that increased slightly, people moving into district, things that we needed to monitor. But overall, right now where we stand, we're gonna come in within budget, which I feel very fortunate that we're able to do that in this climate and trying to keep that budget together without affecting any of the programs that we have, and to still be able to move forward. So all the administrators, the board here, in working together to make sure that this would happen so that we don't affect it in this, it's a difficult environment to do it. So if there's any particular questions on it.
You're very lucky.
So what you're saying is that you think or you know that the ECR money is going to help with this
We got
bottom
it.
line?
We
You
got it.
You got
So
it.
what I was
It's
doing
already
was
here.
monitoring, we got 1.4, which is actually more than we've ever gotten,
Yeah.
which proves out the point of how our costs have increased.
Yes.
As you know, we were waiting to see what additional, because it usually comes in 2 tranches. So
Mhm.
May was the second one, so we were holding back some expenditures, to see if that money came in, to make sure we protect the bottom line.
So there was the good news you wanted.
That was the
Got
news
it.
when that came in. I was
Okay.
so excited to see that coming in, that we could then go ahead with some of the expenditures we were holding off on, that we
Okay.
really felt we needed to purchase or repair.
So we should be at the end of June, right on budget, right on target.
Yes, yes,
That's what I thought.
yes.
Okay, good. And
We
millions.
survived another year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, starting, myself and the office manager, Mary Ann, starting July, we're really gonna start from a different perspective of how we're gonna monitor this for us on a weekly to a monthly basis, to prepare this report, but actually have a more stringent way of coming up with our analysis of how we're gonna see it. So we don't get to the point of January and go, we have another freeze we need to go into place. We wanna make sure that we have those projections. The other unknown is with SPED, but
Right.
Andrea and and my office are gonna start working together on that really closely on it. They've been very good working with Mary Ann on it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
You know, just, if I could,
Sure.
on that, because, SPED, we know is uncontrollable. We could take 3 families moving into the community and could blow our best laid plans out of the water. We discussed this at the business and ops meeting. I don't think our decisions financially on how we handle it in the event that SPED should, blow up on us, we've got to find a way of dealing with that outside of impacting and freezing the rest of our budget issues that impact our general population, which is to some degree, there were a bunch of items this year, but I just want to go on record that we will not, that we can't do that we cannot, we've got to find a way, if we have SPED financial issues, they've got to be dealt with separate and apart from the balance of the budget that drives what the rest of the students and the rest of the schools do.
That goes back to your comment about educating the Board of Finance?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, this year our freeze came about for a variety of reasons, some budget misses that we had from last year that we just didn't get included, and so that's understandable. Going forward, I think we've got those, relatively covered now. So the budget into next year, I think we've got everything covered in there that we are aware of, that we can foresee, with the exception of anything that should happen in SPED. And if it does happen, we just cannot negatively impact the rest of our budget, which negatively impacts all of our students, the balance of our students, to deal with that. I just want to go on record with that. We've got to find a way.
It was a discussion on the Board of Finance meeting last
Yeah.
night, because Peter took it away from from the business ops meeting.
Yeah.
In saying this is something we need to discuss, because it is a statute, it's allowable,
Right.
and there has to be some mechanism in place
Yeah,
for it, so.
to deal with that.
Yeah,
So I just
yeah,
want
it
to go
was a
on record.
discussion
as
last
to- Okay.
Right, we have to talk about that potential set aside that is
Yeah.
allowable.
Yeah.
But each town has to decide for itself.
Yeah.
So it's good that we're starting now, because you can see some of the high expenses and probably volatile expenses in special ed. And the other way to help control it or start to, sort of address it is, as Andrea just said, in response to Chris's question, is to try to bring some of the outplacements
Back in-house, yeah.
with in-district services, which, will require upfront costs. And so that will be the challenge, or a challenge as we move forward. If we're trying to develop in-house programs, those will spike the budget a little bit, and it will take some time to pay off. But we have to try to take the long view.
And we aren't the only district seeing that either.
Exactly,
We are
exactly.
not the only ones doing that situation, so.
Thank you. Moving on to our action items. Up first, for discuss and improve our gifts to the schools.
So, I'd ask for a motion to approve the gifts. There is a table in your packet. I regret that I didn't take the opportunity to have some of our PTA presidents just summarize the number and volume of gifts that they made to the school this year. If you look through that list, you can see our PTAs do a phenomenal job of supporting curricular and program enhancements across all of our schools, and do an incredible amount of fundraising to support the fine work in the classrooms.
I mean, it totals roughly $130,000 worth of gifts. That's a rough ballpark number. I just kind of eyeballed it going through it. That's amazing.
It is, and you add WEF.
Over
in
and
there,
above our
you
budget,
double it.
and this is from the WEF, or WEF whatever, and PTAs and other people. $130,000 came to us in support of the university of things that we want to do. That's just outstanding. And it's just, it tells me the community's invested in this.
Without question.
So I think it's just great.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve
Is there a
gifts.
second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I just want to, in terms of the WEF donations, they do a lot for professional development. At
Yeah.
some point, we can see,
Thank
you.
like, an example of the things that we're able to do with our teachers that we wouldn't be able to do with the WEF donations, because they're really generous to be like, okay, you know, Dr. Smith asked us for $10,000 for professional development.
Yeah.
What exactly are we getting for the $10,000? And, you know, highlight.
Yeah, you got it.
The
Lori
things we
Gettner
could
tracks
do.
that. So,
What?
sure, I said Lori Gettner tracks that.
Oh, yeah.
So that we can send that. Well, in fact, I'll send that to WEF in the thank you. We have two WEF representatives here. So, thank you.
Yeah, a true partner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The gifts are accepted with our deep gratitude. Thank you to everyone. Discuss and approve healthy food certification.
So this is an annual event.
Sounds like a good event.
It's required by state.
Right.
So as for the newer members of the board, if you're not aware, we are in the lunch program, other than the high school is not on the lunch program. But what the state wants, they have quite stringent guidelines, that every year that the board, before June 30th, will either say yes or no to approve either staying on the healthy food program or going off outside of the lunch program. And what I say is, like tonight, there was cupcakes, or if there's something at the school that's outside of normal lunch, you have to say you're either going to approve all the healthy choices that are in the normal program at lunch, or you're not going to approve it and be able to offer other things that a PTA organization might do, or something after school, or this type of a function. So the board has typically said no. We don't approve the certification, which means it gives us the ability to have cupcakes and different things in the schools, or different functions of selling, sometimes if they're selling candy or something like that. We don't approve it, and the state requires it every year that the board says on their minutes that they are not approving the certification for the healthy foods for outside of the lunch program. So we need that on the minutes to be able to do that.
So do you
So
want
I'm
to just
looking
propose
for-
the motion? The motion is to not approve.
Yes, the motion is to not approve this, the healthy food option outside of, I want to stress, it's outside of our
Yes,
lunch program,
right.
because we do follow that to a T. That is very stringent. We follow all the requirements. Our food service company, Chartwell, follows it, all the documentation we have to require. But outside of that lunch program, we are not approving the healthy food options of that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
To not approve.
To not approve.
Okay.
So we're not against healthy food.
No.
What we want,
Flexibility.
By
what
not
we want
approving
flexibility outside the lunch hour.
Completely support basic.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, we could not have it.
Okay.
So the only way to do both is to vote against.
I vote
Okay.
against.
I second that.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Any
got it.
opposed? Thank you. So the motion to not approve. Whatever we just did. Okay.
Can we even do that?
We do it every year. We've done it
Every
every
year,
year.
I know, I'm just kidding, just kidding.
And next up is my least favorite thing that we do. The motion to cancel summer meetings. Is there a motion?
Chris, you can come once a month.
I
if you'd
just
like.
might show up.
I don't know who will be
Well,
here,
if
but.
someone, if you all, the rest of you want to meet, that's fine.
We can talk.
You'll have a quorum without me.
Is there a second?
Second. Sorry, gotcha.
I'm not even gonna ask for discussion, just all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone?
Reluctantly, aye.
Yeah. That motion is approved. Moving on to future business, I think of Lucille Luck for the evening, but she put together this phenomenal athletics year in review, which I think there's some extra copies floating around if you guys want to grab one, but people at home,
Next year.
I'm sure it's on, I know it's on our website, so it's just a real acknowledgement of the successes that our student athletes have had.
And Chris, we just learned last Friday that Wilton High Athletics was recognized as the FCAT Cup winner for the Small Schools Division.
Oh, that's
2018.
fabulous.
Yeah, so
That's
that was,
great. Congratulations again to all our student athletes and our coaches. Next up is our comments from the public. Is there anyone from the public who would like to?
Yay, on the opportunity train.
Jim Pinion, 44 Bald Hill Road, wearing the Wilton Education Foundation hat, being a Wilton Education Foundation board member. I just want to kind of match up the recognition of our support for professional development, and just reiterate that yes, we're very much, that's something which we believe very strongly in, and so we were very happy to be able to continue that support again this year with a check, which I have, which I can add to your paperwork for $10,000.
Wow.
So that kind of matches up with the.
So, Jim, we should also tell the board that we keep getting emails about the greenhouse that WEF funded.
Yes.
It's on its way from Chicago. It's going to be erected this summer, and we'll have ribbon cutting with WEF in September.
Where's that
That's
going?
great.
So at Middlebrook.
At Middlebrook.
So you can't even imagine the bureaucratic hurdles that we had to get over to get this thing approved and ready to go. But
It's awesome.
it is.
We're very excited about
That is just a tremendous partner. So
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the
Thank
summer.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What a nice way to end the meeting.
Yeah.
Anyone else
Absolutely.
got any? Anyway, seeing no one else from the public? Oh, one more.
One last comment. I would like to actually take it back to the swastika incident at Middlebrook. My name is Rena Reichgut. Is this an appropriate forum?
Of course.
Okay. Rena Reichgut. I live at 5 McFadden Drive, South Wilton. I have older children. My youngest is hopefully graduating on Saturday. So I have a little bit of distance emotionally, but I am a member of the Jewish community here, so to that extent, I'm very deeply affected by what happened. Part of me would like to just applaud the teacher, though, for taking a risk and tackling a very sensitive subject. I think that one of the prior speakers, Susan, I think, made the point that the execution fell flat and the outcome was troubling, but the attempt there, I think, is something that should be applauded and appreciated. And I think that, if you're looking for input on how to address this, some thoughts that I'll throw out, I think that action needs to be taken both short-term and longer term. So short-term, my suggestion would be to take ownership of this issue. I think that, this could be turned into a social studies lesson. I gather that may have been the original intent, but if you, address the history of the symbol of the swastika prior to Nazi Germany, during Hitler's reign, and then even in contemporary times, addressing the neo-Nazi communities, I think that can be a very valuable lesson to the kids and to the teacher who, can take ownership of this lesson and acknowledge that, maybe the outcome was not exactly right because this is a symbol of terror and persecution. So that would be just one thought as a short-term action. Longer term, you had a nice turnout here from the Jewish community here in Wilton. Instead of, I
guess, fostering an adversarial relationship, tap into the community. I strongly suggest that you either develop some sort of advisory committee and seek feedback, seek input. If you have ideas, open up the dialogue, because I think that we're all on the same team, and I think we just need to foster critical thinking in our children and some empathy training, and I think that we can help. And if there is any either inaction or superficial action, I think that's where the trust erodes. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, then the meeting is adjourned, or a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
You.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Done.